Oozing out of all orifices.
Oh, God, they should call me Ozone Ocean, I suppose.
It's sticking now, man. It's sticking.
Hello and welcome to the Quackcast number 305. I'm Ozone Ocean, and with me is the marvelous Mr. Baines. Hello.
Hello.
The fantastic Mrs. Pitface. Hello, Mrs. Pitface.
Hello.
Hello. And the tumultuous Tanserine. Hello.
Oh.
Tanserine.
Hi.
I'm getting very good with my superlatives, aren't I? A lot of hyperbole and superlatives.
I know. I was just thinking in awe of how your awesome Dr. Seuss language is coming along.
So we're going to be
makes every day just a little brighter.
Oh,
Go
and
on.
it needs it. It needs it too, especially in with your weather up there, in your snow and your grim, horrible Soviet days that you have.
The cold, hard winters.
That's Blitzov voice. Oh my God, you got it perfectly. So we're going to be chatting about Chekhov's gun, which was Tanserine's news post from just this Saturday about Chekhov's gun. And of course, that's Chekhov in Star Trek, and he had a phaser. That's the kind of gun he had. And so no, it's the playwright Anton Chekhov.
What about Sulu's knife?
No, Sulu had a sword, man. Don't you remember? Jeez, he was a fencer.
What about Uhura's
A sword is
crossbow?
basically a really long knife. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. So I think Uhura had knuckle dusters because she was a tough woman. She was a she didn't go for no knife or gun. God, no. Anton Chekhov came up with this whole idea that if you have a gun in a first act, it should actually perform some function. But if it's referred to, if it's ever drawn attention to, basically, it should have a role to play and not just be a red herring or a disappointment or whatever. So if you draw attention to that thing. So that was, Tance has made this whole post about it, and it's very interesting. And she has gone into all the different sides and angles of it, as she does, being such an intellectual genius. We would expect nothing less from Tanserine.
She's probed it thoroughly.
Yes.
Exactly.
She's probed it. Sorry, she has.
With a probulator. Because now that you talked about probing, we had to talk about the probulator. So, see, that's Chekhov's gun right there.
Oh, with a perfect accent for it as well. Well, yes. So the probe, if you mention it, then you have to use it and use it well, and that's the whole principle behind Chekhov's probe. But first, we have to get into.
We have fun here.
No, in jokes. We're almost doing Baines's post from Thursday. All right.
No, it's meta. Like we're doing Baines' post while we're discussing my post. So we're basically analyzing two in one.
Exactly. We're probing.
My head's
two in
going
one. So, but first we got to get into the featured comic, which is going to be read by me. So the featured comic was My Pet Succubus. So take it away, Ozone Ocean, and talk about your pet succubus.
Hello, I'm Ozone Ocean, and my feature for the week was My Pet Succubus, which Natasha gathers her ingredients, makes all the right preparations, chants the dark magic words, and nothing. She tries again and then notices a pretty young lady standing behind her. Young, happy-go-lucky, naive Giselle isn't quite the succubus Natasha had in mind when she decided to summon a demon. My Pet Succubus is a cheeky, sexy comic strip. It's funny, naughty, while never crossing the line. The best sort of tease comic. It's drawn in a cute, sexy, manga-influenced style. The art is very professional, very smooth and consistent. The colours are gorgeous. This is an entertaining, slightly titillating piece of good fun. This is by Carlos G, and it's rated T. And Carlos G, I believe he's a fellow Australian too, which is pretty good. Very, very sexy work. Yeah, it never crosses the line. It sails close to the winds, at least in the text. You never actually see any nudity so far. As the title suggests, yes, succubus. So it sort of concerns mature themes, but doesn't go even far enough to have an M rating. So it's a T-rated comic, and it's a lot of good fun. You'll enjoy it. Beautiful piece of work. It's quite a new comic to Drunkduck, and it's still updating. So enjoy it as it continues to update. My Pet Succubus, rated T, by Carlos G.
And that was My Pet Succubus by the creator, who is someone I can't remember. I would have told you that in the thing. So there, it's done. Yes. So we're gonna also talk about the music as well. So the music was Grow Up, which I think that was a featured comic I did a few months ago, last year actually. And Gumwallis has given us a theme to it, and the comic is by Akanat. It's rated T. It's about sort of a diary about this teenage girl's sort of life in high school. It's really good. It's about growing up, and the music it's repetitive, it's relaxing, it's punk reggae instrumental with fuzz guitar. A lazy evening on a summer beach. So here it goes. And that was the theme to Grow Up by Gumwallis. Alright, so Chekhov's gun. Tans, tell us about why you decided to pick Chekhov's gun up from the table where it was lying and start having
Because it was on the table. Because it was on the table and it needed to be fired, of course. So.
Of course.
I don't know why. I mean, I have whenever I go through the week, I have several ideas that cross my mind while I'm doing completely other things about what news posts I could write. So I have them in a list over here. And whatever seems or amenable at the time, the level of brain fried that I am, I choose the easiest and I write. So Chekhov's gun was the one that made the cut this week. And there is something that always irks me a little bit about Chekhov's gun. It's everyone talks about foreshadowing, like it is the metaphor for foreshadowing and everything. I don't think that's the case, because you foreshadow in several manners that don't involve, having items that you intend for them to be used or become significant later in the story, or having for example, the examples that I mentioned in the news post, like having little details that seem unimportant and now later they become very important and so on and so forth. Foreshadowing can happen with just having a feeling that is not necessarily a hint of what is to come. It's it is more of a mood thing than a trick.
Yeah.
Whereas Chekhov's gun is like it's a rule of thumb for making for the parsimony, as I said, of a story, so that you avoid info dumps if you can. Even though you have do not be like Victor Hugo and don't talk about the sewers because you have researched them. Like we know you have because they are in your story. Just we don't need to know everything. So I think that is more the meaning of Chekhov's gun and the little tug of war that happens between the author and the audience. Like, okay, now I will try to guess ahead and predict what you have in store for me and predict what's behind curtain number 1 and everything.
Yeah.
More than foreshadowing.
Exactly. How this thing is going to have a role in the story rather than... because, say, you could always think about it as like being another character on the page or on the screen or in the story or whatever. You have to wonder what that person's going to do as well, not just an object. And having characters in a story isn't foreshadowing, is it? Having objects in a story is just how things are, and you expect these things to play a role and to be used.
Mm-hmm.
And you're disappointed if they aren't. Yeah, so it's not really foreshadowing, it's just structural, really. Having a comic play or having a story occur within a room doesn't mean it's foreshadowing because you've got a room and the room is playing a part in the story. So it's just... for example, it's considered bad writing to have certain ideas or rules in your world and everything and then not employ them or break them. I think it's the same thing. I'm thinking, for example, of the Harry Potter world where you have certain elements that could be super crucial to the story, like the time turn or what's the other thing? I forget right now. Or, some elements that are important for one part of the story and then they are never mentioned again. Okay. So these are it's considered bad writing to make a prearrangement, set up a thing for your story and then just leave it or not address it or even go against it. So I think that Chekhov's gun is like the smarter, quote unquote, way of doing that, but without oh my God, I don't have vocabulary. What's the guy that pulls the rabbit out of the hat? Magician.
Yes, like a magician, who is supposed to create this mystification and this surprise twist along the show. And if you are good enough, the audience won't catch it.
Yeah.
So, but that is like a specific thing, okay? Not the story or the foreshadowing of the story, but that is my opinion. Many others feel that this is what foreshadowing is. So.
Yeah, you have quite a lively comment section on this news post, which is good, and we may even read that if we feel the need.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe that's a good idea because, like, going into this, and I'm still kind of fuzzy on it, I didn't really know much about the concept.
Oh, really?
So maybe for people out there that are listening who still are just kind of getting a grasp on this concept, maybe we should read it.
Yeah, okay.
I'm one of those people listening who's just getting a grasp on the concept.
Baines, you're an expert, right? You know all
I
the
swear
concepts.
I'm not. I've heard of Chekhov's gun. I've read the definition. I've listened to Tans explain it. I still don't really get it. But
that means I explained it badly.
After Tans explained it, I understood even less. No, I'm just kidding. No, but it's it's. I mean, I know it exists. I know it's there. I don't fully get it.
No,
Your Chekhov's gun isn't firing veins.
Exactly.
There's treatment for that these days. Well, you don't have to suffer alone, Bones. Well, the simplest way to put it, I think Tance and I have said it, if you have, it's a concrete example though. If there is a gun that is in the background of your story, or if your play, because Chekhov was a playwright, so there's a gun as one of the props, and the characters sort of obliquely refer to it, and it's there. As a viewer, you have built up an expectation that is going to play a role in the story somehow. And if it doesn't play a role in the story... I do understand that much. But how to apply that outside of, if it's not literally a gun, say? All right, so if it's not a gun... But surely it applies to everything else, though, doesn't it? I mean...
yeah.
A character trait, like a skill, a gymnastic skill, I think Tance brought up. If someone refers to that... Yeah, you expect...
Is that a Chekhov?
Oh my God, I think that's an example I abhor. Because you have this girl that is super good in gymnastics, and her skill becomes relevant because it's irrelevant throughout the story. Becomes relevant in fighting off a velociraptor.
She's talking about the second Jurassic Park, by the way, for those of you who have gone on.
Yes, she says.
That's I completely agree. It's like, come on, dude! Like, they should be eating her.
No, that's a bit silly. Yeah. Or have you ever seen? There's this terrible. It's probably one of the worst martial arts films ever. But you know how there used to be a whole lot of martial arts films, sort of based on weird concepts, just to make a martial arts film. There was this one where this guy is he is a retired acrobat for the US Olympic team or whatever, and that's what his thing was. And he goes to this Eastern European country to perform or whatever, and he gets into a fight, as you do, and he fights for his life, and he uses his gymnastic skill as part of his martial art. And you think, well, yeah, sure, that gymnastic skill would apply to martial arts in some way, but no, this is literally his gymnastic skill. So there just happens to be a vaulting horse for him to ride up on and spin his legs around. And there are parallel bars, and he jumps on it and spins on the parallel bar and kicks people in the head. Oh, apropos of nothing, that's just, I suppose, no, that does fit, because, it built on the fact that he had this gymnastic skill, and there he used it. But, very, very poorly. Oh, God. Yeah, let me just stand at head height in the way of your parallel bars so you can kick me. Oh, God. Handy vaulting horses in every room. Well, so we may as well read out some things. Well, Baines, do you want to start with Mr. Bravo, which is down the bottom then?
Sure.
Oh, I should link everybody to the news post so everybody knows where we're at.
I got it.
There you go.
And Bravo says, I prefer red herrings to Chekhov's gun. They taste better. No, you didn't say that. I prefer red herrings to Chekhov's gun. Look for it all you want, and while you concentrate on finding the smoking gun, it was the pickled fish the whole time.
Oh, the lutefisk.
That's still a Chekhov's gun, though, because the pickled fish is there as well.
I don't know why, but like Bravo is cracking me up lately, man, more than he used to. I don't even know if like what he's saying has changed, but like I love his comments lately. They're the best.
Awesome.
They're having the intended effect. Then they're finally working.
Magic moment.
Bravo's magic. And well,
he's going to be in submission.
You can misdirect people with your Chekhov's gun things, and that works just as well. I mean, it's fantastic if you have like a gun appear in the first act, and it doesn't. It ends up getting thrown at someone, or someone ends up getting lost, or something like that. That's the whole thing. It doesn't have to be used as a gun, or the whole point of it is
Yeah.
a character is afraid of guns, and has to get rid of it or something like that. You can use it in funny
Okay,
ways.
well, but if that was the case, then the sort of stated rule would not, would that be violating that rule, and would that be unsatisfying?
No, because it doesn't have to be used as a gun. It just has to be used. Really,
as a device. So
yeah,
would you?
That's it.
So to clear this up, would you say? Cause I'm still kind of getting it too. Would you say the opposite of Chekhov's gun would be, what do they call it? Deus ex machina,
Oh, yeah.
where something enters the story just as it's needed out of
Never
nowhere?
established something. Yeah, something
Yeah.
non-established.
Yeah,
Fixes things.
the Deus Ex Machina is like just appears.
Yeah.
It's like
No, yeah.
like if in a mystery story. Yeah, the Chekhov's gun though has to be built up in the beginning of the story.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying
do
it's the
sort of-
antithesis,
Yeah,
right?
so-
Oh, the antithesis. Sorry, I didn't catch
That's
it.
what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They do sort of play
Yes,
opposite
yes.
roles in a way, don't they? Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Using Chekhov's gun, good. Deus Ex Machina, not so good. Well, it can be, depending on the style of story. Everything, there are no rules really, everything has its place, but generally you don't want to do it. If it's a surreal comedy, yeah, sure. And it's great fun to have stuff jumping out from nowhere. That works well, yeah. But if you want to write anything good that's not a serial comedy, then yeah, don't do it. Well, next up we have
Unless you are ancient Greek, they love that sort of thing.
well, the gods were literal characters then, so yeah, then there should be a god in the works. So we have Odia next, or Udia. I never get that name
Udia.
wrong.
Uder.
Ooder. Hey, Ooder! Hi, Ooder!
Uder and the Blowfish.
Who's gonna read Ooder? I'll read Ooder. Hey, Ooder! This is the favorite thing ever and anything ever created. I discussed this exact subject with another creator earlier, but we concluded how it could work the other way around. Let's say we put an object of seamless no value into a story, and the audience will pick it up and start to hype it up, trying to find a place for it when it will be essential or waits. This is worded kind of strangely.
Yeah.
It'll work if
Waits
you read
out
it. It'll work. If
I
you
know
read
that's
in-
what it
in a
says, but
Nordic
I'm trying to
accent.
put it in a way that makes it a little bit more coherent to who's listening. Then at the end, it appears to not be essential at all. It was just a pointless relic, which had nothing to really do with the story. And the audience realized they just got trolled. Oh, so I kind of get what he's saying here. What a ride it must be. Like the worst anticlimactic ending possible. In a way, if done right, it's totally also something that could work as a hilarious element to the story. I mean, if it doesn't piss off the reader too much.
Yeah. Well, like Bravo says, a red herring. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. Be tricky. Yeah, you don't want to piss off the reader too much because that can happen. You read something and you think, so what was the whole point of that thing then? I'm totally disappointed. This blue balls here. Blue balls. Come on. Which can happen. All right. But that is a good point. You can misdirect and you can trick people and, and
What a twist!
exactly. So my post next up, and I'll read mine. In my best Ozone Ocean accent, I said, "Well, I like the Chekhov's gun thing because the object or the skill isn't always used the way you think it will be, even if it's always really interesting to know how or why or when it will be. It's a cool part of the story. When it's done badly, it's something like there's this gun lying around, the characters get in a dire tense. Oh, when it's done badly. Okay. Oh no, I'm reading this badly. Okay, I'll continue. When it's done badly, something like, there's this gun lying around, the characters get in a dire, tense situation, the gun can save them, and you just watch or read along or wait until they finally use the gun to save themselves. You know, that's predictable, it's not that fun, especially if it's done too straight and standard. You have to have twists and turns in there. I do love the principle, though. Something big or cool or interesting is in the story, and you want to see what part it'll play in PKTA. At the moment, there's this big land battleship thing and I'm a strong believer in having stuff like that do something and not just being scenery the way it can turn out in so many comics. So there we are. That's my thing, yeah. So if you just use Chekhov's gun in a straight, simple way, then it's just tedious, you know. Maybe that's okay for a very simple story, but it's not really. It's not even Chekhov's gun. Then it's just it is, but it's too standard. So you've got to work it up to there, and you've got to use a bit of foreplay to make it work properly. Just don't dive in there and
work the shaft.
Yeah, you gotta work up to it. So, but yeah, I like having something that, say in PKTA at the moment, in this part of the story, there's this gigantic land battleship out the front of these hangars, and there's all this mecha and stuff like that. I want all this stuff to play a role. I hate it when you're looking at this great anime or something and they have these fantastic machines and devices around, and they're just scenery, a lot of comics do, web comics, they'll have these things in the background and stuff. Like, even if you say, like, especially in old pictures of, like, pirates' treasure and stuff, there's always an old sword stuck in the pirate's treasure or something like that. And you think, wouldn't it be cool if they just used that, if that had some part in the story or something, but it never does. So.
Oh, dude, man, I have such, it's, now that you put it that way, but when you said anime, it brought up something that it was pissing me off so bad this week. So I was checking out this anime I've never seen before called Fate Stay Night, and it wasn't the greatest. I had my expectations were a little higher, but one of the things that kind of put me out about it was, so it had this awesome potential, right? That there's like I won't go into the whole slightly convoluted backstory, but there's this war going on for the Holy Grail, and there's these masters, and then every master, which is usually like 9 times out of 10 is like a school kid or something, and then every master ends up getting this servant, and this servant is like from history or mythology or something like that. So you've got like Heracles running around, and you've got like they've got this badass like woman warrior who is actually King Arthur, which I thought was kind of a cool idea because they make her badass, but they don't really put any focus on these so-called servants, these awesome historical figures that you've thrown in the modern day. And it's like, dude, like they're just like ornaments. They're just like these things now. Like they're pawns in this game, and you never get any development with them, and it pisses me off so much. I'm like, do something with them, Yeah.
That is a good point. Anime does that a lot. Yeah. It wastes things to focus on silly childish characters rather than these cool things that they populate and
I don't give a shit about your tired anime harem bullshit building up. Yeah. Like, focus on what's cool.
Exactly. Yeah. It's writing, yeah. When you have cool things, anime does this a hell of a lot. I hate it when, say, you've got gigantic machines, and there's always some enormous beefy Superman, whether it's a woman or a man, carries this gigantic gun. You think, wow, that's going to be the heavy hitter. That's going to be the one to beat or something. And it's always beaten by some little schoolgirl or some little girl guy or something like that. You think, well, what was the point of building? Yeah. Why did you do that? It's just...
assholes.
Give us some internal logic, because that's what Chekhov's gun is as well. It's a kind of internal logic for your story. You're building up the rules of the world that people, the thematic rules of the world as well as the logical ones,
and the anticipation too. A lot of times as well.
Yeah.
That reminds me of way back in the day. I wrote a script called Goblins. And one of the rules was they eventually turned it into Gremlins. They took it away. But, with the rule, there were those rules in the beginning, don't get them wet and keep them out of the sunlight and don't feed them after midnight. And in my script, the characters were very responsible and they didn't feed them after midnight. So I don't know, it just seemed like it didn't quite work. I don't know.
That was pretty clever, Baines.
Yeah,
that was pretty clever.
Thank you.
Followed the rules too closely.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. I was like, I want smart protagonists. They're going to keep an eye on that clock. The end.
The end.
You never find him. So, is that Chekhov's gun, kind of?
In a way, yeah, because you introduced this rule, but then you never used the rule, and you never saw what happened.
Like, is that's the principle then?
Yeah. It would be. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Boy, Joey's getting it.
Slowly.
I didn't get it until Pete sort of said. Yeah.
It's more towards the red herring, I think. But yeah, that's the principle. Playing with this sort of.
Well, I mean, endless. Yeah.
Yeah, that they're not going to follow the rule. Yeah, and you think, oh no, you should have. Oh no.
Well, no, that would be.
Midnight.
That would obviously that would be insane to do that. Why would you do that? That's like a recipe for people to never read anything you write ever again.
Yes. Well,
something like that, right?
Then you come down to conflict.
He was giving an example of it not working.
Of it not.
Not
doing it.
Yeah.
The gun not going off, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yes.
Oh, I've been
exactly. So to speak.
Yep.
Well, next up we have used books. So, Tanserine, I think it's your turn.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I accidentally create them sometimes. As my confidence/ability improves, I create more detailed scenery and backgrounds, have characters working on something during scenes, create really interesting looking extras, etc. Basically, I put in details simply to hold my own interest. I get lazy and draw poorly when I'm bored. Down the road, if I'm having a writing block or simply looking for inspiration, I look into my own backgrounds. They often hold the answers I'm seeking. Another fun thing is to have a character attempt to use the obvious solution object only to fumble it and have to figure out something else. Or you can twist it back again, like the acorns in Willow. Based on the beginning, you don't think they are actual magic and they come into play halfway into the movie to no avail, so you don't expect them to appear again.
Yeah. Bit of a spoiler there for people who haven't seen Willow. 30-year-old movie? Oh, I expect, yes, a few people to. That was a good movie. They did that.
Yeah, I really liked that. I remember as a kid, I was like, I knew it by heart. So.
Yeah. It's Mad Mardigan and the little Hobbit guy.
Willow.
Willow, that's right, Willow.
I don't recall the fellow's name. But
he was an Ewok.
He was. I remember people told me when I was a kid, like people told me that's the Star Wars, like they're going back. That's the prequel to Star Wars. That's episode 1. They did. It's pre-internet. I believed it. But then when the movie came out, I was like, why would they not market it as Star Wars Willow? It's kind of stupid.
Those dumbheads. What were they thinking?
They weren't. I could have a child. I could have told them, you got to tell people it's Star Wars. I don't know.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, Baines, give us your best cam. Cameo.
Okay. Cameo. Okay, buddies. I'll do it as a Canadian, a sort of redneck Canadian. I got to show you guys a video later. My brother showed me. It's friggin' hilariously Canadian. Okay, buddy. To me, Chekhov's gun always sounds like Chekhov was yelling at some prop master for putting on a gun prop on a set for a play that didn't use guns. Okay, that voice is horrible. What am I doing? Let's see. I'll go Irish instead. Forget Canadians. They're horrible. So to me, Chekhov's gun always sounds like Chekhov was yelling at some prop master for putting a gun prop on a set for a play that didn't use guns, rather than a good argument for foreshadowing, which people usually use it for. Chekhov's gun is better used for minute mysteries rather than a full story. Keep it lean, keep it spare. No extraneous details.
Excellent Irish accent.
I agree. That's what I thought when I heard Chekhov's. That's exactly what I thought. Like, what's the point of this rule? Like, what are you even talking about? Just take the gun off the stage then if it's not part of the story.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, but if there's a clock on the wall, does that have to be story? Does that have to, like, cock-doodle-doo at some point?
Only
also?
if it's referenced.
But if it is a cock, if it is a live cock on the wall, there's. I mean,
Get rid of the pizza guy then.
Take
Jesus.
Take time to describe it and draw everyone's attention to it. So it's there for a reason. Maybe you are,
Yeah, exactly.
you're weird.
If there's a window in the room, does it have to smash at some point?
But think of this though too. Sorry, Oz.
Oh, go on.
Think of this. So if you draw enough attention to something though, doesn't it automatically become just part of the plot?
That's it.
Mm-hmm. It should.
So I mean, it's not the fact that it's there; it's the fact that it's there and you're referencing it. But a gun is particularly simple.
But you do that enough, and it just becomes part of it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. But I think the idea, like mostly, is that it's basically to keep your awareness of the boundaries of your story structure, because especially, and this you can see in several stories that are as good the quality, let's say, as others. I'm not going to bring examples of that. Where you have setups that really pad up the story. They make it really big and huge and several pages to read through, where they take time to explain every single detail in a tone and a way that signals to a reader that it is significant for some reason. They should keep it in mind, because it's basically what?
That sounds extreme, though. Like,
yeah. Well, that's the point.
No,
is getting at.
It's not really all that extreme. You would be surprised. I mean, for example, I remember there was this story about how. I'm trying to translate from Greek. 1 second. So there was this story about this prince and a princess and this hag at the edge of the road. Pretty standard stuff. And we spend like a huge amount of time with the stupid hag. And, she says a lot of things, and none of these things are important to the story. I mean, she could have been cut out completely from the story, and all the other interactions between, the prince and the princess and the knight and everything would have been fine. There was nothing about her that was relevant. Okay, and that's very frustrating because it feels like you are being trapped as a reader. You cannot follow along. It's like a sort of cheating in a sense. And okay, this is very extreme, and I remember it because I was very young and I was reading fairy tales and I was super pissed off about that.
You wanted to punch somebody.
I didn't even know about, I didn't know about Chekhov's guns. I didn't know any about these things. But I hated that story. For that reason.
Yeah.
Because the stupid woman, I mean, why was she there? What was the point of it? It's if you cause your audience to ask what was the point in a way that is not fascinated. Like, when you have an undefined ending. Or when you try to understand the meaning of the story. And this is very productive because you like it and you have different interpretations and everything. But when you are pissed in that, what was the point of this? Then I think that's where Chekhov's gun is pointing your attention to. You should trim that. You should be in a position to clean that away.
I think too, though, because I'm always sitting here trying to play devil's advocate and probably opening my mouth when I shouldn't be. So I totally agree that, there are times, and probably a lot of times, that people don't really get this concept. But I'd like to point out, and this is a different of opinion. There'll be some people who listen to this and say, "Oh, Deidre, it still sucks," but I like when Tarantino does this, actually, a lot of times. That's what makes me like a lot of his work, is that somehow he's able to do it and still make it interesting. Like, you could sit there and listen to a conversation about tipping people that has nothing to do with the rest of the story and still find it interesting and still find it as part of the stylistic narrative, at least. But, so I'm sitting here trying to think to myself, that's from Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but that is not irrelevant. Even though the conversation is irrelevant per se, like they're talking about something irrelevant, it really gives you a lot of information about the characters and the way they interact. So you get to learn about them. So it's significant. You don't care about
so I guess that's the difference then.
See, but for example, they were talking like for the suitcase, and they were talking about tipping in a way that seemed significant to the plot, and we were always waiting for them to go back to that tipping plot device. Yeah. Then you would be pissed.
Yeah.
See, so it gives you basically the signal that you shouldn't pay attention to the conversation, but how they are conducting it more.
Yeah. I get you.
That's true. Yeah, it's like the whole.
That's a good point.
Royale with cheese in Pulp Fiction.
You're not waiting for that to pay off. Or like when you watch that movie, the Reservoir Dogs thing too. Like, you're not sitting there waiting for the tipping thing to come back somehow, and you're not waiting for the cheeseburger to come back somehow. I guess because it's funny.
Depends what you've been
it's funny
eating.
enough and it's satisfying. I don't know. Unless you're in the theater waiting for your cheeseburgers. That's another story.
You know what? A really case of what was the point that pissed off people in a very famous animated movie was in Frozen. About the villain, the villain, spoilers, whoever hasn't seen it. The villain is the prince that I don't remember his name. And he is presented as a good guy throughout the movie. And then suddenly he turns the tables and he shows his true colors and blah, blah, blah. And everyone was super pissed, at least in the beginning. Why? Because they have this small, tiny little scene where he falls in the sea and he's under a boat, and he looks like he's looking at one of the sisters, like with affection and love, as is signaled in Disney movies. And he wasn't watched by anyone else. And so you see, and that was a signal, like, okay, he's a good guy. He didn't sneer like in Scar, so to signal, he's a bad guy. Or, you didn't actually need to have that scene in. Okay. Nobody would have gotten a hint that he wasn't good if that scene wasn't there. So that would be a red herring in a sense.
Yeah.
That pisses people off.
Right.
Because it's cheating in a sense.
Yeah. It's also started some conspiracy theories about it as well, which is funny because I've never seen the movie, but I've watched I'm like the old, and I've got a 3-year-old niece, so by all rights, I should have watched Frozen by now because she loves it. But I watch the conspiracy theories, and that's the only thing I know about this. Is that some people are like, maybe it means the prince is actually
under a spell,
a pawn of these people and stuff, and no, he's a pawn. No, I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't know.
I don't know.
Fuck's sake! Cartoons will destroy us all.
He's a pawn under enchantment. That's it. That's the thing. I mean, if there's magic in the world, anything's possible. So there. That's it. I haven't seen it either. I've got no idea what you're talking about.
Me neither. Haven't seen it.
I have seen it once. Oh my God! I'm the only one that has seen something.
Yes.
And, I'm not proud of that. Actually, I saw it once, and I personally didn't like the movie. I really don't know what it is that is so wonderful.
Oh well, just let it go, Tons.
What?
Just let it go.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The song is a little bit better than the movie, anyway. But I do know Snow Queen as a fairy tale. I felt that it was one of the creepiest fairy tales when I was a kid. What
was that? You cut out for a sec.
What I said that when I was a kid, I felt that the Snow Queen was one of the creepiest fairy tales.
Yeah,
because the boy in the original story, he gets a shard of glass, of ice glass from the Ice Queen in his eye, and he becomes a completely different negative personality. It's like he gets dual personality syndrome or a disorder. So, and you watch him go through this horrid, weird, evil person transformation, and then he leaves, and then the girl has to go after and save him and bring him back to his senses and so on and so forth. Save him from the Snow Queen, basically. So I think that maybe this little thing was a remnant from maybe an original first incarnation, where maybe he was good, but then he got a shard and he became bad for some or something like that, and then they left it in for whatever purpose. But that's my theory. I should make that into a YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely.
You should. Explain it. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's genius. Yeah, I must read. I've never read The Snow Queen. I've read things based on it, but never actually read the proper.
I've never read it either. I've watched a different cartoon, like an independently made cartoon. I think it wasn't Disney. I can't remember who did it, but it seemed it was based a lot more off of the original one from all things that I've heard about the original one. So
okay. See, the main things I know from it are, of course, the fantastic song by Small Faces, Tin Soldier, which is based on Snow Queen. Beautiful, beautiful song.
I used to love that song when I was a kid.
I still do. And there was a fantastic there's a fantastic sci-fi series by Joan DeVinge, or Vine, I'm not sure, called The Snow Queen, which is basically she's taken that whole story into the realm of sci-fi, and she won like a Hugo and maybe a Nebula award for this, so it was really big in the 1970s or early 80s. So yeah, you should definitely read that. It's very, very good, The Snow Queen. And there's a Summer Queen as well, and a couple of other books in there, but fantastic. Anyway, off this way off the subject. Chekhov's gun. Let's get back to it with good old Kim Luster, and she has a post. Are you up for this, Pit? It's your turn.
Well, I think Kim is in your territory, but if you're not feeling the lusterness today, then I suppose I suppose I can give my best a try if you can't.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Fire up the loins.
All right, let's see. Yes, I purposefully added these to my story, including one rather recently
that will come back around middle of next chapter. I remember a forum topic a while back where in webcomics you have to sometimes draw scenery, books on shelves, dishes on tables, furniture, because it's a visual medium. Whereas in a written story, you won't begin to describe all that stuff unless it's going to be Chekhov's wiener gun. So in a webcomic, we could argue that the gun is harder to spot in the background. Or maybe... Stop laughing, Oz, goddamn. Or maybe easier if the creator really wants the reader to notice it, thus making it more prominent. But then the creator really risks savvy readers guessing it. But then she can make it a red hair, and then, yeah, it can become a game, as Tanch said.
Oh, very well done. Very well done. Well written, Kim. Well written. That excellent little explanation at the end there. Brilliant. Very sexy as.
You have competition now, or it's like
Yeah.
for Kim last.
I've
Yes.
been blown out of the water.
I told you I'd make it one day, Ma!
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, make Chekhov's gun harder to spot. That's a good point. You can, as you were explaining before, Tance, people can explain a whole lot of stuff in detail and give it a similar prominence, and then you can disguise your Chekhov's gun. Or, if you do it too badly, you can give everything similar prominence, then you come up with a whole lot of Chekhov's guns and disappoint the reader by not...
Chekhov's arsenal.
Yes, Chekhov's... Chekhov's...
Chekhov's
ass.
Chekhov's misfire.
Yeah, Chekhov's misfire. Yeah, and disappoint the reader with a whole bunch of misfires. So you have to be careful there. You can... I think that takes a savvy writer to be able to come up with all these things and then know how to disarm them in a way that's not going to disappoint your reader, round them off, disarm them. Okay, these are duds. They're not all primed and ready to go off. Or they could be. You could have them all go off, like in a whole massive, like...
It could be,
Gun bang.
not all in the same time, though.
I hate to be the person to clean up that mess.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I really think, though, that, Chekhov's gun, occurs naturally if you know the setting of your world, and it's the way it works, and the rules that permit it and everything. If you know it really well, like the back of your hand, and it's not, like the first draft of whatever,
yeah,
then they will occur because as the characters develop and interact within this world, certain things that weren't important in the beginning will become important for whatever reason.
yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it, there are, like in my fantasy story, the novels, that there are some Chekhov's guns that I never actually intended for them to be in, but they become important as the story progresses, naturally so. So,
Okay.
yeah. So, for example, the rules of magic, and when the kid is learning the rules of magic in the beginning, she's being an apprentice and everything. She realizes that sometimes energy versus output is important. And then there is this entire sequence where this is the single most important thing. But, that becomes the issue in the second book, not even in the first one. Or there there is this cure-all thing that is super rare and everything, but the uncle who is like one of the main characters in the story, he has it with him all the time, and nobody as a treasured important thing, but it's never relevant. Like nobody cares that he has it. But then everybody needs it, and it becomes super important. And then you have to make choices about who gets it and who doesn't, and so on. But that actually hadn't been my intent. It really occurred as I was writing through. It was basically, I knew the world very well, and so the world itself built up certain things.
Yeah, it suggests solutions that you can use, and you can, because that is a prop that's in the story, you might as well use it and see what you can do with it. Oh, wow. And you find this can apply further down, and that just becomes fortuitous that, oh, aren't I so clever to have brought this up earlier? I can use this later on.
Yeah.
Actually, I have had those little moments to myself, very self-indulgent and saying, I'm so good, I'm so perfect.
Oh, me too. Me too. Oh, I was planning this from the beginning, and don't pay attention to the fact too that I probably have a lot of unused Chekhov guns, and that because I. With my updating rate, I usually forget. Like if I'll have a little idea, like, oh, I'm going to put this in there now. Use this later on, and I'll totally 100% forget about it. So I'm probably
all the time. That's why having readers commenting on your comic really helps, because they will tell you what takes their interest, and I'll say, hang on, there's this thing. Is that going to play a role later on in the story? And you think, I better make it to that then, because if people are noticing it, geez.
Then you're like, good job, people, you guessed it.
Literally, yeah. It helps so much. Oh man, yeah.
Yes, for sure.
It's the best thing. I think in the last PTA chapter I had to, and with another example, the mech are actually playing a role. I wanted actually to do something. I've got it in the very first panel of that story. There's these giant mecha just sitting in the background, and that is my Chekhov's gun, because they were going to be used, and a whole big disaster takes place. People are shooting them up and stuff, and Pinky gets in one of these big mechas, and so does Ace, and they actually be used. They're no longer part of the scenery, but everything about them is used. The flamethrowers, the guns, how many rockets are in each of the pods, everything. I made sure to so that's a very literal kind of Chekhov's gun, almost. Chekhov's mecha, which is the addendum to the rule. But yeah, it feels satisfying to have things like that in your story. Have like Chance, you said before, and as well, who else did? Someone anyway. The
use books.
Some asshole.
But Cam as well, having a lean story, having only a certain amount of things and actually using them. Yeah. Which it feels good as a writer. It's like being efficient.
Yeah, I think the only Chekhov's gun that I actually put consciously in Without Moonlight, I don't know about anything else, is the cigarette that Arthur keeps trying to smoke and he never manages, and then he has to go out to retrieve another cigarette, and he comes back in just as Basil is leaving. The safe house.
Yeah.
So that's the only Chekhov's gun that I have. Like the fact that he keeps either dropping it or never managing to actually smoke it is the thing.
Yeah.
And that's a good one, because it's one you don't really notice. It's just like a nuance that suddenly has a purpose when all is said and done. So it's not one that you notice through the story, but it's there.
Yeah.
Not through the whole story, but through that part. Yeah.
Structurally, you notice it. Yeah, not physically. Yeah. So it works well. Yeah, those kind of aspects. It's satisfying, and it can become subconsciously satisfying to read it if you do it right. Yeah, things don't have to be explicit, can they? They can be implicit, and you can just sort of have that there. What about in Bones? I'm trying to think of a Chekhov's gun in Bones, but Bones is the Chekhov's gun, really. He has the ability.
It's not user media anymore. It's. Did you say Banes or Bones?
Both. No, both.
Bones.
There's no difference.
Actually, there. I do have maybe a couple set up. I won't give anything away.
Okay.
But the fact that Igor, we see that he is good with explosives, will come to mean something soon.
All right.
Yeah.
So back in that scene that I'm sure nobody remembers, where they stop at that village, it's just before, because I had forgot about this scene actually, even until I'd gone back and read the comic through again for the first time in years the other week. But the scene where, and that's when I noticed all these like unused Chekhov guns. I'm like, oh fuck, you know. But one for instance that'll be used soon is, if you remember, when they stop and there's like this kind of semi-flooded town,
I remember.
and it's just before the T-Rex comes to chase them out and split them all up, which is in a way is another Chekhov's gun, because he ends up being used. Now I'm just starting to realize. But when we see Igor just before that happens, he's down in the sewer, and there's this big dead. Here's another one. There's a big dead sewer worm in there, and it was the same type of worm from the mutant worm that was used in that one arc way far back when Bones and King Felix get stuck in the sewer. But anyways, nobody ever notices these things. Nobody will either, because I take a million years to update. But so Igor is down there, and he's these explosives around the worm, and I mean that as like a little nod to what's going to happen later on with these explosives. So,
well, you also had,
which I'll probably forget again. Sorry, go on.
Bones' child was a bit of a Chekhov's gun too, in that his whole episode with the mutant pretend Gretchen, and we were sort of wondering what is going to happen out of that. So
are you guys wondering? Because I was wondering if anybody realized that the baby's missing.
Oh, that's true.
I won't say anything.
I know, because you know what I'm doing already, and I'm like, oh God, Ty, like I trust you, like I know that you're not going to say anything, but I'm like, just wait, because I know you're itching to be like.
Did you notice? Here's another Chekhov's gun. Didn't you notice that I was very, very silent?
Right.
There you go. Whenever Dad's just silent, you know that something's up.
Spoiler.
And in Brave Resistance there is a Chekhov's gun set up, and it is just set up in one single panel, where Nikos is talking to Hunter, and nobody. I mean, I expected everyone to, go aha and point, when we uploaded the page, but nobody did. So I'm really, twirling my hypothetical mustache.
Remember what part that was? Isn't that terrible? I don't remember what you're talking about.
I'll tell you, but in private. Which is like, it's going to become like the super most important thing of the story.
God damn it, Tony!
Wow.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you now.
I'm working on it right here. Look at guys, it still lives. I'm working on it right here.
Nice.
Wow.
Oh my God.
I feel so bad about that comic.
Yes, like Baines in his bottomless waitress writing.
Yes. Exactly.
Bottomless resistance.
There you go. Now you know.
All right, gotta check it out.
Well, I think
yeah. But that hasn't had its payoff yet, though. That hasn't had
No,
its payoff.
not yet.
So that's why people aren't
No,
going.
I said it will. I said it will become one of the most important things, at least, toward the final act of this first arc.
The money.
Oh, I thought you were saying that you were upset because nobody had said yet, but
No one noticed the payoff or something, but it hasn't happened yet.
yeah.
No, I wasn't upset. I was super happy because the point wasn't for everyone to notice it. And when I wrote that particular line, I was like saying, please, I was praying, please nobody pay attention to this. Never mind to that.
Okay.
And it looks like it's working. So, yeah.
Good.
I can't wait.
And I don't have to feel bad anymore. Because I'm still okay. I realize we haven't. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, I think we've covered that topic exceptionally well from all angles. We have left no Chekhov's gun unfired, hopefully.
Thoroughly probed.
We've produced the money shot, and it's all over.
Get out! Go home! I don't care where you go, but you can't stay here.
Oh god. Yeah, so Chekhov's gun, a plot device. It's something in your story that you build up expectations for usage, and you satisfy the reader by actually using it. Oh my god. I think Pitt's going to eat us.
The genres of reader. The reader that knows how these things work. I mean, the ones that are looking for it, because all the others are supposed to not know. It's there until you want them to know. So it's like two levels of readers. The ones that are trying to ruin everyone's fun, like I'm one of those. Like when I was younger and I was, more of a nit, I went to the movies with people and I kept telling them what's going to happen, and that pissed me.
Yeah. Well,
we've watched some movies together. You've gotten better at that, but at first when we would start to watch movies together, I'm like, God, if she sits there and tells me, "Oh, I know what's going on," I'm gonna fucking scream. Because you're always right. Because you always guess it. You're always right. Like
I really try not to do it anymore. I promise I try not to do it. I used to do it like all the time. It was a reflex reaction.
Yeah.
At that point. So I'm really trying not to do it anymore. I'm sorry.
Well, on that note, I like it when the writer sticks those things right in the open, and they dare you to guess it. They dare you to guess what it's going to be used for. And that's when it works, because you hide it in plain sight. Then you put it there, and then the writer can pretend that it's a red herring, and then have it used. So that is when they do it really well. When the writer just boldly uses it, and there's no push pull, and you don't have to
suck on my plot device, bitch.
Exactly. Get a load of this. You won't be able to work it out. Scum readers.
Fucking dumbasses.
I will say I love it when I sense a flaw. Like I think I see a flaw in a movie, particularly in a movie where it's like, There's a movie called Shutter Island. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it's pretty good. It's quite good, I thought. And at a certain point, it's a Martin Scorsese movie, so you sort of have high expectations and stuff. And I'm watching it, and at one point, I don't even remember what it was, but I was watching it, and I was like, that's out of character. But you know what? It's Martin Scorsese. He mostly knows what he's doing. Like, I literally had this thought, like, just let it go. Let it go. Let it go.
Great.
And literally at the end of the movie, it was like, oh my God, like that flaw was actually a clue. But I love that, like when you see it and you sort of brush it off. And then it turns out that, oh my God, like that was sort of a key to to what's really going on.
Yeah.
To the twist, you know.
I've seen that in movies when you think, you see the thing and you think, you dumbass, you made a beginner's mistake there. Ha ha ha. I can almost turn this movie off now because you've spoiled it. You know, you've got an obvious kind of tell here, and you've wasted. And then you go to the end of the movie and you think, I feel like a real idiot now. you played me completely.
Not an idiot, but it's like I noticed it, but I didn't realize that it mattered. You know.
Yeah.
So but cool. I love that.
I mean, when a movie outsmarts me, and there have been quite a few, I really enjoy the experience. I really do.
Yeah, it's great.
You feel pleasantly surprised to be tricked.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some clever writers that way. Like, I remember there was a story, Jack Vance. I love him as a writer. He was this very weird American guy. He's no longer with us, but he wrote thousands of sci-fi stories and fantasy. He's from the old days of pulp stories. Anyway, in this particular story, it was building up so much in the plot, like, and you could just see where it was going. It was just, there was no way it could deviate. You knew everything was built up. All the foreshadowing was there. You knew how it was going to end, but it didn't. It ended completely differently, and he completely confounded all my expectations, which I was so happy about because it was going to end. You know, the ending I thought was going to happen was going to be terrible, but he pulled the fat out of the fire so well, and you know, I love it when a writer can do that kind of thing. They can twist things about cleverly. It makes you as a reader feel so much more entertained. Like, that was such a fantastic piece of work for them to have done. So yeah, it's a vote of confidence.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. You know what? Yeah.
Never mind. I had nothing of credit to input.
Correct. Everyone read more Jack Vance and Tant Serene and Pitface and Baines. Read them all.
Chapter 10.
Jack Tance. They're fantastic writers.
Jack Tance.
All right. Well, this has been Quackhouse number 305. I've been Ozone Ocean, and these guys have been so much better than me. Fantastic. Tant Serene, Pitface and Baines.
Grazie.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye. Don't swallow that eraser bit.
Quack off.
Quack off.
Quack off.
Quack off.